Welcome, my friends. Today I want to show you a trick for creating a bass sound with nothing but your axefxiii and a guitar. This is crazy because the pitch block over time has gotten better and better, and the sound is actually so good you may not even know in a mix that it's a guitar acting as a bass. For a little proof of that in action, last couple of videos I've made, the intro jam is actually a bass part played on the guitar with the Virtual Capo from the axefxiii. Pretty cool, kind of a little trick that's hidden in there. In any case, I want to show you how I'm dialing it in, and I want to show you how convincing it can be in a variety of ways. So without further ado, let's dig into the preset and see what I got going on. So here you can see my preset layout. I've got a compressor, a pitch block, obviously, the amp. The cab is in parallel with that direct signal. Oftentimes, bass players will record both a direct signal, which has a lot of clarity to it, and then the mic'd up bass amp, which has a little more heft to it, a little more weight and power to it. So I like to combine those two, even in a faux bass kind of a sound. In any case, moving right through, I just want to say that you need to try on your own where to place the pitch block. There's a few ways that you can do it, one of which would be to just put it anywhere and then tell this part right here, the detector source, maybe just right at input 1, you want it to go just straight from the input of the axefx into the pitch block. What I'm experimenting with at the moment is the block in, and it's actually coming from the compressor. So the compressor is hitting it's the first thing in my chain, and it's helping my signal to be a little bit more consistent because, when you're playing guitar, you want a dynamic sound for sure, but the bass, it can be unwieldy in how dynamic it is, and normally you want that bass to sit in the mix real constant like. So unless you're Marcus Miller or something, you don't want a whole lot of dynamic range to it. In any case, that's my preference for the moment, and that's what I've tried, and I've got a pretty good result. The amp I'm using is the USA Bass 402, and let me just show you how I've got that dialed in. For my guitar, this is working pretty good for just a straight up rock kind of a bass tone, almost kind of emulating like a P bass kind of a sound. And one thing I should say about the guitar itself, it's going to make a massive difference which pickup you use and whether they're single coil or humbucker. Let me give you a demonstration of that. So I'm going to start with my bridge pickup, and I'll just give you a heads up. Like, this is not going to be a great bass sound in my opinion, but this is what I got. Not super inspiring. Here's where it gets interesting. When I flick into my position 2, which is the middle single coil, and my split humbucker, I get my favorite sound from this guitar, which is this. Much crisper, much cleaner, and it's just got that attack, and it's got some weight to it as well. So that's my favorite sound. I'll take you through the other pickup positions just so you can hear what an amazing effect the selector has here. That's not bad. Kind of a round sound, might be good for more classic tunes. That one's pretty good too. That's also a single coil split mode. And then position 5. You be the judge. Which one do you like best? Let me know in the comments below. So now that we've got that dialed in, or you've seen what a difference that pickup selector can make, I'm going to leave it parked at position 2 for the rest of this video. And let's just talk a little bit about what I'm doing in the amp block. So I've got the drive up pretty high. This is a pretty clean amp in my experience, so you have to kind of push it to get a little bit of a grit out of it, and that helps the bass sit well in the mix, kind of activates more of those harmonics, if you will. Bass I'm running pretty low. I've got these kind of big monitors, these 8-inch subs. They're in a small room can be kind of overwhelming, so I'm not sure that's going to come across in the video, especially if you're watching this on a cellular device or a tablet. You may not hear the weight of the sound, but for me, it is definitely making the walls shake more than my guitar does. Kind of fun. But for that reason, I've got the bass pretty low on my settings here. Mids down. I was trying some slap stuff to see if I could pull that off on the guitar. It's kind of there. It's nowhere near the quality and consistency of a real bass, but the slap sounds something like this. So Not bad, but you know, not the best bass sound I've ever heard. I've got the bright switch up. I've got the treble up to 6.3. What else can I say? Master volume at neutral. I had a level I had to bring up pretty high. Now here's where things are getting interesting. I've split the path, as I said earlier. I've got the cab as the one that I found works the best for my guitar is Factory 2, number 272. And that is a really nicely balanced bass sound. It's not too heavy. There's another one in there that's kind of fun to play around with. And let me just check and see which one that was. It was the bass sub kick, and that's going to be a 115 SV bass cabinet. That one works pretty good, especially if you want more weight to your sound, more heft. That's the one to grab. But this one is really cool. It's got a nice mixture of everything, a nice good mid-range punch. Good for what I'm going for. And then at the end of everything, I've got this compressor that's just barely kicking in to even out my signal yet again, because it can be kind of a lot of peaks and valleys playing these parts, especially with a direct signal and a bass cabinet simulation going on. So I've tried to even that out best I could, and I think that compressor at the end of the chain does a pretty good job. The first one grabs some of the peaks, the last one makes sure that none of that harsh, peak and valley stuff gets through. Did some interesting things here in the output EQ. And again, this is based on what I'm hearing coming back at me in the room. And as I'm playing this back on headphones and these big speakers, I had to take some things out and I had to make some things more present. Particularly the top end was not very pronounced. Even though I'm using that split single coil, you would think there would be a lot of top end going on. Not so much from this amp model and this cab combination. So I boosted it up at 2K, about 3 decibels. Boosted up 4K, a little over 4 decibels. The high end, the 8K right there, I don't like it. I don't like the sound of it when playing bass. So I dropped that way down by about 4 decibels. Some minor tweaks brought out 500 quite a bit because I was getting a lot of mid-range before. And that's fun for fingerstyle, funky kind of stuff. That's a cool sound when you want to push through and be a little bit more on top of the mix, but I brought that down for my purposes. Little slight cut at 125 hertz, minus 2 decibel, 2.5 decibels, and same thing for 63 hertz because that was getting a little overwhelming on my speakers. Try it, see what that does for you. That's really the only other thing I've messed with in the amp tab. I want to drop into the pitch block one more time and show you a couple things that are cool to mess around with. Number one, the low cut and the high cut really does make a big difference in the tone and the vibe that you're going to get from the Virtual Capo. So my intention here with the low cut is to remove that stuff that might trick up the pitch detector. That can be present in string noise, or as you're maybe making some mistakes, could activate the pitch to lock onto something that doesn't exist. A slide, a harmonic that popped out by accident. That's my theory on that anyway. The high cut is down because, again, I don't like too much high content in the bass style playing. So I brought that down to just under 6K. And for the tracking, I've got that way up in the fast mode. I think it works really, really well, even if I was playing some tracks very nicely. And I'm impressed with that. Something to play around with is to switching it from fast to smooth. And, for this type of stuff, you could even maybe play some chords. Results may vary depending on the pitch block's position, using a compressor, how hard you are playing, and something that may be obvious, but I'll say it anyway, is just making sure that your guitar is really well tuned before you get into playing with the Virtual Capo. So here's what I got. So pretty cool sound there. I mean, it wobbles a little bit, but not in really a bad way. And it has that similar charm like an old whammy does, where, it's not a perfect pitch shift. It's got some artifacts in there, but that's kind of fun to play around with. I think you have a lot of artistic freedom to use that in various ways. So for you guys that don't have a bass lying around and you're making demos or just jamming with friends, this is such a cool trick to be able to get some more mileage out of your old guitar. I don't think I need to say it, but I'll just say it anyway. The shift is down -12. Of course, that's 1 octave. a lot of fun to be had in the various positions, you know, getting into like tuning the guitar down to D or C sharp or even B to kind of emulate a baritone or a 7-string guitar. Try it out. So more fun to be had is when you add a drive block to the situation. I'm a big fan of like the tones from the band Muse. You know, they're really saturated, really a lot of power, but a lot of like fuzzy, I don't know what to call it, just a lot of like heavy in-your-face rock sounds. I want to kick in this pi fuzz I've got going. My sustain is just below 5, you know, like 425, tone at neutral, noon. And then the level's really low because this can get out of control loud if you're not careful. But this is what it sounds like. And again, I'm just going to leave my guitar in position 2. And for this particular sound, you want to make sure that that Virtual Capo is set to fast tracking and not smooth. So really fun to play around with. How about one more from Muse? So not exact, of course, but it's in the ballpark. And it's a lot of fun to play around with. Again, if you don't have a bass, hook this up. You might be surprised at how good it can be, especially in the context of a mix where it's not poking out too far. Here's what it sounds like with some drum samples. So you may have been wondering, or I don't know if you caught this or not, but why am I playing so high up on the strings? I could have played the same notes down here. And the answer is the timbre is just not quite right because the string, I'm guessing because of the action and the string gauges, it just doesn't have that bass-like quality. It sounds unnatural to my ear. So, I mean, you be the judge. Check this out. If I'm playing... Sounds a little weak, a little rattly, but by sticking to the bottom 3 strings, the E, A, and D, just a little bit more solid, a little more weight to it. So anyway, hopefully you guys find this useful and fun to play around with. Let me know if you need some further explanation on this stuff or anything else for that matter. I'm here for you. Let me know what you want to see in the future videos. And again, thanks for stopping by and being here with me, checking out the axefxiii type of stuff. It's always fun to hear your feedback. So let me know what's going on with y'all. Looking forward to seeing you again real soon. Thanks.